So we are going to discuss from Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 6, Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter number 6, text number 7. 5? Oh, file I have not sent? I'm sorry. 1 minute. So, let's start. Yes. So now we have discussed in 6.6. Before that we have discussed that mind itself is the enemy, mind itself is the only enemy and only friend of the conditioned soul. And then in 6.6 we have discussed for what kind of person the mind is friend, who has controlled the mind, what kind of a person the mind is enemy, who has uncontrolled mind. Well, basically you don't need to show because you can just see in the laptop. It's better like that. So now in the 3 coming shlokas, the favorable conditions for performing yoga will be described. So you can chant on the mic. This is easy shloka. Obviously easy. Okay. Jitatmanah prashantasya
Jitatmanah prashantasya
Paramatma samahitaha
Paramatma samahitaha
Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu
Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu
Tatha manapamanayoho
Tatha manapamanayoho
Jitatmanah prashantasya Paramatma samahitaha
Jitatmanah prashantasya Paramatma samahitaha
Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu Tatha manapamanayoho
Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu Tatha manapamanayoho
Jitatmanah prashantasya Paramatma samahitaha
Jitatmanah prashantasya Paramatma samahitaha
Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu Tatha manapamanayoho
Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu Tatha manapamanayoho.
You know what Lord tells himself, says one shloka, half shloka, or even 1/4 of shloka of Bhagavad Gita should be discussed. So we are discussing full 1 shloka. Don't underestimate it. You are coming in contact with Lord's energy. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. This is something quite interesting. You see this word here as tranquil, serene, tranquil. Tranquil is used in the sense that when the water in a lake is standing still, then you can see if the water is clear also, then you can see the base of the pond. So the Lord is in our heart, but if the mind is agitated by these things like happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor, we cannot see the Lord. Now think it from a different perspective. If you see the Lord, basically now you are relishing the beauty of the Lord, the sweetness of the Lord, then what do you care about the happiness and distress of this world? A very, very practical example which any chanter of Hare Krishna will know, that some days if you have nice chanting or nice kirtan or something, then we don't want to think. Not only do we don't want to, the thoughts of happiness and distress, or if somebody has disrespected or respected us, does not come. Make sense to you? And this has been corroborated, or how to say, supported by Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Sukha dukha thakuk sambhave namer prabhave. I'm forgetting the whole exact Bangla, but the idea is, as a devotee chants Hare Krishna, by the effect of chanting Hare Krishna, he becomes equanimous, he becomes neutral to all these dualities of this world. And if you think very simply and very carefully, mind is entangling us in this world by being absorbed in duality. If there is happiness, we want to maintain it. If there is distress, we want to avoid it. But in all this, we forget that the mind should be absorbed in Krishna. When a person gets material happiness, he wants that material happiness should continue. And when he gets distress, he said that, no, it should stop. Yes or no? You have to nod the head so that I can understand that you're understanding. Okay. If you say, yes, I will not hear anything, because that much you're not visible, saying yes or no. As soon as there is distress, we don't want that. As soon as there is happiness, we want this. What is that? Sankalpa Vikalp. And a person forgets that nothing of these are belonging to the soul. Either material happiness or distress has nothing to do with the soul. And if you see, the Lord that's why giving the instruction, simple instruction, manmana, fix the mind on me. Are you able to follow this? So jitat manaha means a person who has conquered the mind, means his mind is not affected by these things. That's what is mentioned here. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. All the same means they are simply manifestation of various moods of the mind, so to speak. Basically illusions of the mind. If I get something to taste, touch or see anything, what it has to do with the Atma? They are not real. That is the word. They are not real. Just like if in a dream you are happy or distressed, you are feeling any emotions, that has nothing to do with our real life. And when we become awake, then we become indifferent to whatever we have experienced. Although in the dream we are quite absorbed in it. That's how it has to be understood. Now, even if you are not at the platform, at least we should think about it, and this will come again and again and again in Bhagavad Gita. Samyata, equanimity, equanimity, equanimity. So, this is how the sloka is. So, such a person, super soul is already reached. That means he is directly in connection with the super soul. So, see how important it is to control the mind? Anvay. Sheet Ushna, in cold and heat, Sukha Dukkha in happiness and distress, Tatha Man Apamanyu, also in honor and dishonor, very easy to understand. Prashantasya, who has attained tranquility by such control over the mind, Jitatmanaha, of one who has conquered his mind, Param Atma, the super soul is Samahita, established or approached completely. That means he can meet the super soul. Have you heard that? Pure devotees are directly in connection with Paramatma. So like Srila Prabhupada is writing the purports, Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan is writing his commentary, they are in that state. They can directly communicate. And we know that Baladev Vidyabhushan was dictated, that Govinda Bhasha commentary by Govind himself. That's why it was named Govinda Bhasha. So basically we are actually hearing from two commentators who actually are living this sloka. Have you ever thought this? Actually, I have never thought like this. We are hearing the commentary of two commentators, Srila Prabhupada and Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan, who are actually Paramatma Samahita. Actually Paramatma. Is it not wonderful, my dear devotees? They're actually he wrote the commentary which is, no one is equal to that commentary. And you must have not noticed, many devotees might not know why Prabhupada has dedicated his Bhagavad Gita to Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan. And I think now it is very clear how very closely follows Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan past commentary. Beautiful commentary on Bhagavad Gita. Very easy to understand also. So are you able to understand? Just like I am talking to you, that way you can talk with Krishna. It's mentioned here. Okay. Gita Bhushan commentary. 3 verses, that means 7, 8 and 9. Speak of the favorable conditions for beginning yoga practice. He will take a little different meaning from what Srila Prabhupada will take. Most of the time Prabhupada will follow, and sometimes Prabhupada will also take up the meaning from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and also sometimes from Bhaktivinoda Thakurji. So he will take a little different angle to it. When a person's mind is unchanged, jitatmanaha, in heat and cold, honor and dishonor, and is devoid of attraction and repulsion, prashantasya, the self becomes completely situated in samadhi. So now he uses the word Paramatma Samahita as Param Atma Samahita. Param means highest or complete, Atma means the Atma, and Samahita means Samadhi. So you are able to follow this? His understanding of, or his explanation of Paramatma Samahita, are you able to follow? That the Atma becomes Param Samahita. He is situated in highest Samadhi. What is that highest Samadhi? That the mind is not agitated by these things. Now, it's not that I am at that level. You know that I am not at that level. But we are discussing. That is itself relishable. What does it mean? Just now, if AC is switched off and fan is switched off, and then it becomes really hot. So it's not that the person is not experiencing heat, but he has stopped experiencing repulsion and attraction for that. This is a very subtle point. Are all the devotees getting it? In other words, his source of happiness is not outside. Are we not seeing that constantly our mind is seeking happiness from outside? And have you noticed that even if those things are brought, we don't become happy? Just like if just now before the class we started the air conditioner. After a while it became very cold. I said, stop the air conditioner. So if the air conditioner was really the source of happiness, I would have asked you to continue to run it. Just now it happened or not? See how our mind works? If somebody dishonors us, we don't want to look his face also. Is it not? Not very big offense, very little bit. So we must, before thinking that how we are great devotees, we should think what is our equanimity in these things. I am not saying that I am there and you are not there. I am thinking about myself. It is not that easy to be equanimous. But the only way we can actually, as bhakti yogi practitioners, is that by tasting bhakti. When we taste bhakti, then these things we become aloof naturally. It's a fact. You lose taste for these things. So, did you get this meaning of the word Paramatma Samahita? Parama Atma Samahita. That the self, the soul becomes situated in Param Samadhi. Is it okay? Prabhupada takes it, Paramatma Samahita, he reaches Paramatma. Now, is the meaning different? Actually not. Actually not. Just different way of seeing it. One is Paramatma Samahita. He just directly sees the Paramatma. Another is Param Atma Samahita. What is the highest Samadhi? You see Paramatma constantly. It was just the way they have broken it differently. This is didn't get the link. Link is in the Japa link. Well, the link is, the previous shloka says that, I have to again open the previous shloka. And the mind is the friend of a person who has controlled the mind and is the enemy of those who has not controlled the mind. So the symptoms of that person who has controlled the mind is described here. What is the difficulty? This is essential for yoga practice. If I am constantly thinking, if I will get the best prasadam, then I will chant Hare Krishna. Forget about it. Do you get nice food in your home also every day? Even if you cook yourself, do you always cook nicely? Obviously, you cannot say no, yes, you don't cook. But please raise your hands if you cook yourself and it always comes nicely. Exactly as per your taste. Nahi hota hai. Nobody is raising hands. So now is the weather always good for your japa? This is very easy to answer. Not only anywhere. Anywhere. Nobody is raising hands. So are you going to wait for the weather and the food and is all the relationships working out very nicely for all you devotees here? All your problems are getting solved and so if we are going to wait for that day when there are no problems, that will never come. One very simple point of learning is before your problem starts, finish your rounds. Is it not? Because then have you noticed how the mind becomes involved in that? That problem is very important, this problem is important, but the main problem is that we are forgetting Krishna, that we forget. Anyhow, this is just a side point. We'll go forward. But actually, every living entity is intended to abide by the dictation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. We have discussed that before yesterday, that all of us have that natural tendency to follow superiors. When the mind is misled by the external illusory energy, one becomes entangled in material activities. Okay, a small explanation. What is the misleading activity of the living of the Maya? By sense gratification, we will be happy. And it's kind of pre-programmed. Even if you don't hear from anyone, Maya has programmed us to think like this. So that's what he has mentioned here. Therefore, as soon as one's mind is controlled through one of the yoga systems, one should be considered to have already reached the destination. That means, if the mind is controlled, one will follow the dictates of Paramatma, Krishna. One has to abide by superior dictation, because that's a nature. When one's mind is fixed on the superior nature, he has no alternative but to follow the dictation of the Supreme. Did you get this point? A very simple example you please try to understand. This was explained by His Holiness Satyanandan Maharaj. Very, 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 very nice example. And to the effect that Maharaj did it. In Japa retreat, he brought a ladder. You know that bamboo ladder? He actually brought the ladder. Maharaj is really funny. Actually brought the ladder and actually started climbing it. So he said, if you want to climb, where you have to look? Up. Simple. So if you are looking up, you are not looking down. And if you are looking down, you are not looking up. Very simple example. So say if you are looking at Goloka, if you are looking at going back to Godhead, naturally you don't look at your body and senses, and in that way lust will not affect you. It seems very simple, and it is simple. If I am focused on a higher goal, lower things are not in the picture. But if I am looking at the body and senses, we cannot become free from lust. Now, lust only doesn't mean attraction between male and female. It can refer to anything, fame and whatever. And it can form in any way, basically. Eating, mating, sleeping, defending, any way it can manifest. Why? What did you get? He is not looking up. Otherwise, in a different way, if I am looking internal and trying to revive my relationship with the Lord, where is the time to spend in building an external relationship? I'm not talking about devotional relationship. I'm talking about external relationships which are based on sense gratification. All of us, I think, know about Abdul Kalam ji. So he was asked, why you did not marry? He said, I forgot. So see how much he must be absorbed in doing whatever his goal of life was. He must be seriously absorbed in doing that, nahi? So that's what it's saying, that if a person's mind is fixed on the superior nature, I am Atma, I belong to Krishna, I must go back to Krishna. So if that absorption is there, so I will do bhakti only, is it not? Why will I engage in any material activity? I am not saying that everyone will accept these teachings, but we at least don't deny it. How much a person can accept or not accept is up to him or her. But the point is there, is it not? We cannot say that we are not Atma. The mind must admit some superior dictation and follow it. This is such a simple line by Srila Prabhupada. But again we'll discuss the same point here which we discussed yesterday. Mind has to follow someone, and check your mind at every moment, is it following someone or not? That's what I want to say. Any nodding of heads? Every second our mind is following the dictate of somebody, either lust or Shastra. There are only two things. Either we are doing something as per Shastra or we are doing something as per our whims. Like tomorrow morning, 3:30 will happen or not? 3:30 a.m. What lust will say? Sleep more. Happens with me also. What Shastra says? Wake up. Got the point? Got it or no? Either we are accepting our lust to enjoy sleep, or we accept Shastra, we wake up. In both cases, mind has followed the higher dictation or not? Simple. The effect, so the idea is the more we follow Shastra, the mind becomes trained, so to speak, to follow Shastra. The more mind becomes purified, the more mind becomes inclined to follow Shastra, which are dictations of Krishna. And as the more mind becomes purified, what will happen? The effect of controlling the mind is that one automatically follows the dictation of the Paramatma or Super Soul. Because this transcendental position is at once achieved by one who is in Krishna consciousness, the devotee of the Lord is unaffected by the dualities of material existence, namely distress and happiness, cold and heat, etc. This state is practical samadhi or absorption in the Supreme. What does Srila Prabhupada want to say here? When a devotee understands by hearing from the spiritual master that he belongs only to Krishna and his only duty is to serve Krishna, then he does the duties towards Krishna, no matter what comes. 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐄𝐎 𝐍 no, not this one. No, this one more. I'm forgetting the sloka. Anyhow, the spiritual master explains, we have hearing from Bhagavad Gita, 𝐸𝐈𝐿 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐄𝐎 𝐍 I am living entity. Krishna says every living entity is only my fragmental part and parcel. So if I only belong to Krishna, what is the point of actually following any so-called responsibility in the material world which doesn't enhance my relationship to Krishna? This is a fact. Now, whatever we may want to cover it up, it's a different thing. But it's a fact that anything which we are doing, which is not reviving my relationship with the Lord, what is the value? So now, if that is the determination after hearing from the spiritual master, you will not be affected by what is happening externally. That's what Prabhupada is saying. So much difficulty came in Prabhupada's preaching, is it not? It was not a cakewalk. But he was convinced, not only convinced, he had deep realizations of that. Simply that I must please my spiritual master. Hai ki nahi? Simple. Many devotees are at different level. So many devotees, in the beginning particularly, they become affected. I don't have taste for chanting. Why should I chant? I don't feel like chanting. All those things will come. So they are not understanding, we are not here to care about our feelings. We are here to care what Krishna feels. Is Krishna becoming happy by my service? If I chant Hare Krishna, Krishna will become happy? Yes. There are no nodding of heads also. Krishna, if I chant Hare Krishna, Krishna, if I go for Mangal Arati, Krishna becomes happy. If I go for Bhagavatam class, I hear about Krishna, Krishna becomes happy. Where is the question of your feeling? So as soon I am thinking about my feeling or not feeling, see, distress and happiness, I am becoming entrapped in those things. So, clue, at least at our level, what we are learning from here, there at least there has to be some sense of duty towards Krishna. And then we'll actually follow the dictates of Shastra, and in that way, it will help us at least our level to transcend these dualities. I'll stop here if there are any questions or comments. That condition itself will be the problem. So if a person controls his senses, then in course of time he will control his mind and make the mind as his friend, and then naturally he becomes neutral by all these dualities. Yes. If we don't control our senses, our mind cannot be controlled. And if the mind is not controlled, we will always become entrapped in these dualities. Have we not experienced a state of life where we were wondering, what do I feel like doing today? You forgot that life? We wake up on Sunday morning and what do you feel like doing today? Never experienced. And actually if you think, was it not boring? I'm sure that none of you are getting bored in Krishna consciousness. One Badrinaran Maharaj, he makes a joke. I have been fried, I have been deep fried, but never bored. Very nice. He said, I have been fried and deep fried in Krishna consciousness, but never bored. You know, some devotee would have just given hard time or something, but never bored. Is it not? Even if you think about it, like your mind is not getting focused about, but we like that challenge every day, is it not? To complete a 16 rounds and chant them nicely. I think devotees will vouch for it. We have kind of getting a knack for that. Every day I'll wake up and chant nicely. Even if you cannot do, even if there are so many difficulties, still we feel like a duel we are fighting. And you must be feeling also, as you are doing it every day, it becomes easier. You don't get so much affected as any new person. There are devotees also who are stepping in bhakti who get very much disturbed by what has happened in the previous day and they can't chant the rounds and all that. It happened with me. I met one brahmachari. I said, Prabhu, what happened? 5:30 you're not chanting. Arey, mera jhagda ho gaya. I had some fight with some brahmachari, some devotee. I said, you had a fight with the devotee or with the mala? Why are you not chanting? So, anyways, what we learned was very nicely that if a person's mind is conquered, then he can actually connect with Paramatma directly, and then he becomes indifferent to all these dualities of the material world. No questions, so we shall stop here. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Gaur Premanande. Okay. Thank you.